What's good, you too, man? It's your boy SB, and I am back with another sports break. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the AFC South, making predictions for each team in that division. We're going to take a look at all of their off seasons to see if we can figure out exactly who's going to win this division, how many of the teams from this division will make the playoffs. So, either than that, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Number one overall team for me, and it might be a little bit of biasness, but I think that the Texans are going to be the best team in the division. Last year, they finished the season at 10-7, number one in the division. After that crazy win on the last game of the season against the Colts to make it into the playoffs to punch that ticket. Jumping into some of their offensive stats from last season, they were 13th in points scored and 12th in overall offense. And as far as the defense goes, they were 11th in points allowed and 14th in total defense. Now, the one reason why everybody's hype on the Texans and making us a Super Bowl contender was some of the acquisitions they were able to make this offseason. Starting with the draft, they drafted a cornerback in Kamari Lassiter to be that second cornerback on the other side of Derek Stingley Jr., as well as addressing the offensive line and taking offensive lineman Fisher, and as well as getting a safety Bullock from USC. Now, the big acquisition, obviously, was Stephon Diggs. And that's the one that a lot of people are going to talk about. Just another weapon for C.J. Stroud to throw the ball to. And gives us a three-headed monster on the offensive side of the ball. But my favorite offseason signing was Danielle Hunter. Being able to get a solid pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers in the league last season, and line him up against the defensive player of the year in Will Anderson Jr., makes that defensive line something to be reckoned with. They also picked up players like Autry and Azil Al-Shur, as well as running back Joe Mixon. So a lot of those acquisitions have people really hyped, but just to slow that hype train down a little bit, this schedule is real, you guys. I have the Texans finishing at 11-6 this season, with losses to teams like Jacksonville, who we always end up splitting with, the Buffalo Bills, Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Baltimore Ravens. It's hard to pick them against those teams, right? Those are really competitive games. Maybe they pull out one against Detroit and Buffalo hard, or make it a little bit lighter of a schedule. But 11-6 is going to be a really good record for them, and I think it's going to be more than enough to win the division. Jumping over to the second place team for me is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars started off very high last season, and then they ran into a collapse. Smack dab into a wall, and they couldn't jump over it, couldn't run through it. It just stopped them right then and there. For their offense, they ranked 12th overall in points scored, and they were the 13th overall defense in the league. Offense for the league. And for the defense, they were 17th in points allowed and 22nd in overall defense. So it's obviously that the defensive side of the ball was what let them down. And they addressed that quite a bit in this offseason. They drafted wide receiver Thomas Jr. from LSU and got a good DT in the draft as well. They also went ahead and picked up Eric Armstead from the 49ers to plug right in the middle of that defensive line, which him and Travion Williams are going to be wreaking havoc on offensive lines. They're going to be really hard to game plan for. They also went out and addressed the offensive line and got center Mitch Morse and Ezra Cleveland at the guard position. They also picked up a safety in Darnell Savage, who was an amazing safety from Green Bay. Also got Darby and wide receiver Devin Duvernay to kind of fill that hole that Calvin really left. The Jaguars are going to be very competitive this season. There's no doubt about that. They will be pushing the Texans for first place. And I have them at 10-7, only one game behind the Texans. So either way can go. There's a toss-up between those two teams, and generally, I have them losing games against Cleveland, Buffalo, Houston. As I said, they will split. Green Bay, Philadelphia, Detroit, and against the Colts. I think they split with the Colts as well. So one of those two games could go the other way. Looking at Cleveland, maybe even Indy, they could turn around and win those games and end up with a 12-5 record, and then they'll be first in the AFC South. But I think that this is the way that it might shake out. But they're going to be very competitive. No slouching in Jacksonville for sure. Third place, we got the Indianapolis Colts coming in. Now, the Colts are a tricky team, right? Because we saw AR-15 start, and it wasn't very much that we saw from him. Small sample size with him getting hurt very early on in the season. I think it was like week 4 that he got injured, and he was out for the rest of the season. So they have a lot more upside coming for them than they did last year. But even with Gardner Minshew at their starting quarterback, they were still 10th in points scored and 15th in overall offense. And in their defense, they were 28th in points allowed while being 16th in overall defense. They did address some telling needs on that side, on both sides of the ball. They went ahead and drafted the defensive lineman Latu, who is a massive individual, and he's a people mover. He moves people out of the way. He knows how to rush the quarterback, which is something that you're going to be needing in this division, especially with the top tier talent at the quarterback position for all 4 teams that's in the division. They also drafted wide receiver Adlai Mitchell, and if it's one thing that the Colts didn't need was another good wide receiver that can catch the ball, but that's exactly what they got with Mitchell out of Texas. That gives them Michael Pittman Jr., Downs, and now Mitchell to add to that. That's going to give plenty of weapons for Anthony Richards to throw the ball to. Not to mention one of the best offensive lines in the league. Not to mention that they got one of the best running backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor. So the Colts are going to have a very high-powered offense. They did address the defensive side of the ball. They got Raekwon Davis. Looks like they picked up safety Blackman. We already talked about Booker, and as well picking up Kwity Paye. They're gonna be explosive. They're gonna be a good team, but I think the one thing that's gonna hold them back as well is the schedule, right? The schedule is also brutal, as is the rest of the conference. I think they're gonna get swept by the Texans. I think the Texans win both games. As I said before, I think they split with the Buccaneers. I think they split with the Jaguars. Also got them losing against the Packers, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Lions, the Jets, and the Steelers, which is their one toss-up. I think that they're going to finish the season at 8-9, but I think that there's a potential that I could be wrong. I think there's always a chance for this team to also finish the league or finish the season with a winning record and be fighting for one of the top spots. But for me, someone has to be third, and I think it's the Colts. I think the Jaguars and the Texans are just a wee bit better than the Indianapolis Colts. Not least, we got the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans are the one team in this division that's really just there, right? Like I said, I think all the top 3 being the Colts, the Jags, and the Texans are toss-ups, right? Any one of those 3 teams can win the division. I think the only team that really doesn't have a chance is going to be the Tennessee Titans. They finished 6-11 last year, obviously last in the division. Their offense was 27th in points scored and 28th overall. The defense, a little bit better, 16th in points allowed, 18th in overall defense. They had a lot of work to do, and they went out and did the work as well. They had an amazing draft, taking offensive lineman J.C. Latham and defensive lineman Sweat from UT. They had big acquisitions coming in with Tony Pollard, Woozier, even Kenneth Murray, and then the big signing that they had was Calvin Ridley coming into that wide receiver room. They're obviously going to be better on offense, as well as they had some defensive pieces they needed to address that. Getting L'Jarius Sneed, Simon Quandre Diggs at the safety position. So they went and addressed both sides of the ball to try to make this team better. But as I said, with this division, we have a tough schedule. And I'm going to name the teams that I have them losing to. You guys can let me know down in the comment section below if any of these games you think that they'll be able to win. I do have them getting swept in the division by the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Texans. I don't think they win a single division game, which sounds crazy, but like I said, the division is really good. Also have them losing against the New York Jets, Green Bay Packers, Miami Dolphins, Detroit Lions. I think the Vikings is maybe a toss-up game for them. I do have them losing to the Vikings, but I think they could win that game. And then also Cincinnati. So the schedule is tough for the whole division. I have them finishing 4-13 this season, but I think really the goal for the Titans this season is to try to figure out if Will Levis is your guy. If Will Levis is the quarterback of the future, great. You can start start building up this defense that's already pretty mid-tier. You can try to make them one of the top defenses in the league and see if that's your way to winning. They've already addressed a lot on the offense. Got to fix that offensive line and needs to see Will Levis take a step up and try to lead them to the promised land. So just to recap, for the AFC South, we have the Texans coming in first, the Jacksonville Jaguars finishing in second, the Indianapolis Colts in third, and the Tennessee Titans finishing off in fourth. And as I said, the toss-up is in the middle between the Jaguars and the Colts. That can kind of go either way, and either of those teams can push the Texans, because I only think the Texans is a small bit better than both of those teams. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys agree, what's your ranking of the AFC South, who you think is going to shake out, who you think is going to finish at the top. As always, man, if this is the type of content that you like, make sure you smash that like button, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for your boy. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.